Survey by the Harris poll has revealed that an overwhelming and bipartisan majority of Latino voters say they are often used as political pawns by politicians who could honestly care less about them. Take a look at this graph right here. This is the share of Latino voters who say that they are often used as political pawns by politicians who don't care about them by political party. And as you can see, the numbers are almost uniform across political ideologies. 78% of Republican Latino voters, 78% of independent Latino voters, and 81% of Democratic Latino voters all feel like they're being used as pawns. That overall brings the number to a whopping 80% of Latinos. But both Biden and Trump are trying to court Latino voters. And so far, Trump actually seems to have some momentum behind him. This is reporting from ABC News. It says Biden holds the lead with 49% of Hispanic and Latino voters against Trump's 42%, according to an ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll. Biden's number is obviously higher than Trump's there, but keep in mind that in 2020, Biden won 59% of the Hispanic Latino vote. That's a 10% drop. And it's pretty astounding, maybe even unacceptable, that Biden let that happen when his competition is this. Take a look.
By the way, you know who's taking the jobs that are created? 107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens. And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population.
I really tried to follow that and it was difficult.
Thanks for watching. Our audience has helped build TYT into the media giant it is today. Together, we can accomplish anything. Support our work and join us at tyt.com/team.
But anyway, back to the Latino voters. Here are the issues that they care about the most per the survey by the Harris poll. Latino voters prioritize the economy 3 times as much as immigration or abortion, the survey found. That's a bigger gap than among non-Latino voters. Latinos also placed a higher priority on housing affordability, climate change, and taxes than non-Latinos. And on immigration, 62% of Latino voters said that they'd favor more strict immigration policies in the US, while just 23% said that they'd favor more lenient ones. That compares with 74% of non-Latino voters who favor more strict policies. And in last one, inflation, border security, and crime. Those are the top 3 issues facing the country, according to Latino Republicans. Latino Democrats say the top issue is inflation, followed by climate change and abortion. And that tracks. John Gerzema, CEO of the Harris poll, told Axios this. He said, Latinos are Republicans, think Republicans are business friendly, out of touch. They trail on caring, they trail on equality. They see Democrats as more in touch, tolerant, promoting the people, but they haven't delivered. Their number one issue is their personal economics, and Trump's talking about lowering taxes, improving wages, and making housing more affordable, which are really the biggest issues of this cycle. It's people's personal economics. That's what drives the enthusiasm. They believe the former president has the potential to make a difference in their life. If the Democrats haven't figured out any of that yet, I can't imagine why. Who are their consultants over there? Who is advising them? This all comes down to people's personal well-being, which is kind of what we were just talking about. A lot of that, most of that comes down to people's personal finances, right? People want to be able to provide for their families and live lives that are more than just about work, right? They want to be able to afford some luxuries here and there. Will the Republicans do any of that for them? Absolutely not. We know that those Trump tax cuts aren't for any of them unless they happen to be in the top 1% of earners. I'm going to go ahead and say most of them are not. But the fact that they don't know or understand that is a failure on the Democrats' parts. What do you think of that, about that, Cenk?
Yeah, look, I don't love identity politics, but does it work? It depends. So when there's something real on the line, you give a perfect example, LGBTQ rights. Then identity politics is real, because if you vote for Republicans, they're going to pass laws against you. If you vote for Democrats, for example, over the last 10 years at least, right? goes back to around 2013 when Joe Biden came out in favor of gay marriage, and then that forced Obama to come out in favor of gay marriage. Well, that makes a big difference in your life. Are you allowed to get married or are you not? So Democrats actually did deliver in that case. And that was about identity, because the Republicans made it about identity. Straight people can get married, but gay people can't. So that's very real, and that's why that would drive people to vote for Democrats. African Americans care a lot about voting rights, and Democrats theoretically want to do it, Republicans don't. So those are areas where it matters. But when you get to Latinos, and they go, okay, well, Republicans say bad things about you. That's true, and by the way, the Republicans are very stupid for doing that. Why? You just can't help yourselves, right? If you didn't attack the guys 24/7, they might be very prone to vote for you. But what do Latino voters care most about? Well, what most voters care most about, and that's what those polls showed you. So the Democrats coming to them and saying, we are pro-Latino, so you now have to vote for us. It's not anywhere near good enough. And so what you have to do is actually deliver, and that's where the Democrats have their number one problem, because they're owned by the same corporate donors. So they don't want to deliver for you on wages or healthcare or anything that might cost a corporation a nickel. Now, the Republicans are at least as bad, usually way worse on that, and they're worse in attacking them verbally. But Latino voters, like most voters, are now frustrated at the status quo. So, and at this point, Joe Biden and the Democrats are unfortunately the status quo. So they're saying, yeah, you didn't really deliver anything for me on identity issues. And if you think I only care about undocumented immigrants, A, you're wrong, and B, Joe Biden has now adopted Trump's policies. So again, you got nothing there. And you're just demanding my vote without delivering on any of the economic issues I care about. So no. And so Trump is taking the lead with Latino voters. There's super easy fixes, Jordan. Democrats should actually just deliver on those economic issues, but they're not going to. Instead, they're just going to yell at Latinos and other groups that they have to care only about their identity, and it's not going to work.
Yeah, we see this cycle after cycle where we've seen it more prominently in the past couple cycles from black voters who, when Democratic candidates would come to town, try to get their vote, they would say in general in focus groups and in comments like, you got to stop treating us or only caring about us during an election year. Like, what are you going to do for us in off years? What are you going to do for us outside of these cycles? And time after time, the Democratic Party, who prides themselves on building a diverse coalition of voters, has yet to show up. There have been some attempts where they have tried, and there have been some tinkering around the edges, and you can point to positions they've taken that are in contrast with where Republicans are. But in terms of substance, like you're saying, actually meaningfully and consistently delivering for these groups, it's just not there. And that's where you have a situation like this, where you can see the horrible rhetoric that Trump has spewed for years against Latinos in general, not just immigrants, Latinos who are born here, just terrible stuff. And they're like, okay, well, yeah, maybe we just vote for Trump. And you see him gaining in these groups that the Democrats have taken for granted for cycle after cycle. So if they really want to make gains, if Democrats really want to make gains and keep them and hold those voters, they need to actually deliver on some of these promises and turn this rhetoric into action. I don't think we're going to see it, especially if with people like Joe Biden, who is embracing, and if you want to talk about immigrants, embracing and enacting and enforcing some of the worst aspects of Trump's immigration policy. Like, why would they support Biden after that? If they see the same things, what's the difference? And then if you have one guy saying, I'm going to cut your taxes, and the other guy saying, okay, well, maybe we need to raise some taxes a little bit for these social programs in a country built on rugged individualism and isolation and atomization, it's just a tough political message to sell.
Yeah, and you can't really blame people for being frustrated or even being confused by that messaging. Somehow they're missing that a lot of those tax cuts that Trump is promising are going to go to the top 1% of earners. They're missing that the tax cuts that he did in the past were just for corporations and those top 1% of people. But the Democrats, as far as taking their minorities for granted, 100%, absolutely. The Democrats have learned over the years that they can just make a whole lot of promises to people, and then maybe they deliver a little bit, but not fully, not quite enough, because the next election cycle, they're going to need that same issue to rally their base again. I'm not a Latino, but I am a minority a few different ways, depending on how you want to look at it. Even just as a woman, right? The Democrats have been very disappointing. They're certainly a lot better than the Republicans. I'm not trying to say that I would even consider voting for Trump at this point, or for any Republican really, but it's been disappointing. It's been very hard. Women have suffered a lot of losses. A lot of different minority groups have suffered a lot of losses, but they just assume that we're going to continue voting for them as long as they keep promising the right things, as long as they keep saying the right things. And I also don't want to dismiss the importance of rhetoric, because that does make a big difference. It is important to still say the right things, but talk is cheap after a while. You do have to deliver eventually, right? The Democrats, they've been talking about codifying Roe v. Wade, for example, for so long. They haven't done it, and now we lost it, right? Now it's been overturned. And so now it's even more work to get it back. And a lot of people in the meantime are suffering. And various different minority groups are experiencing some version of that. And I think the Democrats, they need to, their messaging isn't even good to begin with, right? First, they need to work on that. They need to get the message out. They need to communicate what they're going to do to the people who seem confused about it, right? They need to understand that people are confused about their messaging, and they need to figure out a way to demystify what their plans are for the future. But then on top of that, show people what you've done, show people what you have done for them, because people are really missing that piece of it, and they need to be filled in on it if the Democrats want to continue winning votes from people. So
yeah,
Cenk,
last couple of things I'll say real quick is, look, anecdotally, I've talked to tons of Latinos and African American voters, and those stories back up what the polling shows completely. They're worried about paying the rent. They're not worried about, theoretical issues, philosophical issues. They gotta get through the day, and they need help in getting through the day. And the fact that the Democrats can't understand that is really frustrating. And then their answer to that is shaming their own voters. If you're a Latino, you have to vote for us. I can't imagine anything less effective. For God's sake, just deliver for them, and then they'll vote for you. It's not that complicated. And so last thing is, everybody remember, check out Yasmin and Jordan on Rebel Headquarters on the TYT network and their own podcasts. Jordan's is The Insurgents and Yasmin's is A Modern Context. Check those out too. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.